My visit to Mexico also coincides with another important, though tragic, event. 2 hurricanes, Ingrid and Manuel, hit the country's coast from different parts within 24 hours, causing loss of lives, floods and great damage to many parts of the countries, with many people losing their homes. The disaster was declared a national emergency, and during that week, President Peña cancelled his official schedules to personally oversee the rescue efforts. These 2 things enter my mind when, having failed to see him in his country, I finally get to meet him in Bali. You mentioned about disaster reduction, and when I was in Mexico, and I would like to express my condolences of the tragedy of the hurricanes of Ingrid and Manuel. How is the situation there now? How was it handled?
I have acknowledged the President of Indonesia's words. He expresses his condolences due to the loss of Hurricane Manuel and Ingrid caused in our country. Those casualties are regretful, so we are in the process of reconstructing these areas, and we expect that as soon as possible, we could reconstruct the infrastructure that was damaged due to this climatic event, and actually this is a consequences of climate change. We see global warming has happened all around the world, and therefore we are getting this type of events that we need to pay attention to, and this is one of the areas that we discussed in the meeting.
Climático que está sufriendo el mundo, del sobrecalentamiento global que está generando este tipo de eventos a los que habrá que hacerle frente, y fue uno de los temas que abordamos con el presidente de Indonesia.
And I also would like to congratulate you because you have just celebrated Independence Day. I was there at the military parade. Actually, I looked up at the balcony and I saw you, and I was actually very curious. What went through your mind as you saw the military parade and they were all saluting you? I mean, since
every September 15th, Mexico celebrates another year of being independent. That called people to celebrate independence from Spain. It is national celebration in every public square. People gathered to celebrate. It was quite encouraging for me because it was my first time as President of Mexico celebrating independence, what we in Mexico called El Grito, the outcry of independence.
Mi primera celebración como presidente de México, estar en este acto.
Regularly, the President calls the name of the fathers of independence. It was stimulating, it was encouraging. What I was thinking about was the huge responsibility. Mexico has a lot of strength. Mexico wants to be recognized all around the world for its economic and social development, and also Mexico has a lot of richness.
Gobernar este gran país que es México, un país que quiere proyectarse al mundo en todas sus fortalezas, un país que quiere ser reconocido en el mundo por su desarrollo económico, su desarrollo social y por todas las riquezas que tiene nuestro país y que seguramente algunas de ellas tuviste oportunidad de apreciar en tu visita a nuestro país.
Before becoming the 57th President of Mexico on the 1st of December 2012, Enrique Peña Nieto served as governor of the state of Mexico from 2005 until 2011. At the end of his term as governor, Peña Nieto from the Institutional Revolutionary Party, or PRI, expressed his hopes of running for the presidency, and after an intense electoral campaign, characterized by the signing of national and state commitments called the Pact for Mexico, he won the election on July 1st, 2012, at the age of 47. With a background in public service since a young age and a bachelor's in law and an MBA, Peña's vision, as outlined in his book, Mexico, the Great Hope, is to push through major reforms in areas such as healthcare, education, the economy, taxation, and public security in order to make the country a more effective democracy with strong economic growth and educated human resource. As my visit to Mexico also coincided with demonstrations by those protesting against his reform measures, I'm interested to hear directly from him the direction in which he would like to take his country and his people in the 6 years of his leadership.
Yes, actually, and also I took a look at your book, Mexico, The Great Hope, and I'm very interested, especially since you're still relatively young, a new face, and you mentioned about it's time for Mexico to look forward and no longer to look at the past. Now, what is actually your vision for Mexico and the type of change leadership that you are providing?
My administration is a 6-year term and has been in office for 10 months. There is no doubt that we have challenges ahead of us, but as well as opportunities ahead. Opportunities for Mexico to advance the pace of transformation and also improvement of well-being. All around the world we see challenges, and Mexico has its own. Wherever we can achieve domestically, that would reflect the international indifferently. What are the biggest challenges for us? We need to have a comprehensive social development. We need to balance socially. We need to consolidate the middle class in Mexico, that is to provide more opportunities to those sectors in society. They are marginalized in poverty. At the same time, we need to have a faster pace of growth. That is why we're pushing forward structural reforms.
When you describe Mexico, it sounds like you're describing Indonesia, and I think there are many similarities between our countries. The large size of the population, the young people, the rising middle class, and still sort of perhaps the low level of maybe education and other problems related to being a very complicated democracy. In terms of the priorities for making this, I'm interested in an effective state for a result democracy. Perhaps this is something that we can share with Mexico. How are you making that work to make a state an effective state? I mean, we have democracy, but it's more important to have an effective democracy.
As I was saying, I believe Mexico is living as part of democratic evolution, and we have seen the pace of democracy accelerating for the last few years. Mexico moves from a situation in which a party rules for 7 decades. Then a new political party came into office. And the last election in 2012, another party came into office, the party that I represent before, and now we are the incumbent party. Mexico has political competition in terms of election. There is an openness. There is an equitable competition for political parties. I believe that this had made it possible for Mexico to identify the status of its democracy. But it should not be an obstacle for Mexico's development.
Nuestra condición democrática, pero que no debe ser esta de ninguna manera una condición de obstáculo al desarrollo del país.
The experience of trying to push forward builds a will that never materialized. But now we have a Pact of Mexico, and it opens up space for dialogue, for openness, for reaching agreement to push changes forward, to changes that Mexico needs. This is what has happened, and I believe it is a clear sign. When there's a democracy, a country like ours, in any other country in the world can go forward. Changes can happen. Agreement can happen. Living in democracy should not necessarily mean a setback. We want to show that in a democracy, progress can happen.
No necesariamente vivir en democracia deba significar retroceso o poco avance. Lo que queremos demostrar es que en democracia sí puede haber avance, sí puede haber progreso y se puede acelerar el desarrollo del país.